So I made this video this morning talking about what I thought was the end of the Toguro story, and right after I made that, Dwarflord released one of his best videos ever. And we'll go into my full discussion about the video right after this. I'm gonna have like a clip, boom, we're on to the next. But I just have to say how good this video is compared to his first one. And just a little bit more context. Toguro clears Naxx before Dwarflord was me being kind of silly. It was a guy on a paladin that was latching onto a raid that had a lot of Naxx experience in clearing the raid before Dwarflord, who has a lot of newer people in the raid. And we'll talk about the struggles of what they had to overcome to kill KT in this video. But what I like about this video compared to the first one is how the story talks for itself. I thought that maybe Dwarflord was being a little bit unfair in that first video um, to grow just because, people make mistakes. And in my commentary on this channel, sometimes I'm a little bit overly harsh to be funny. But at the end of the day, I do think that, everyone's human and mistakes happen. But as a raid leader, you just have to have higher expectations sometimes. And when you're continually dealing with someone that isn't at a bare minimum, it gets frustrating. And at some point, you have to really speak out against that. So I get that. And I thought that his story in the first video was good overall, just maybe a little bit harsh at times. However, after this video, I really have nothing else to say. He does a really good job not talking and letting the story tell for itself. And I'll just encourage you to watch this full video when you have time. Obviously, it's very, very long, 50 minutes, but it's worth it. It is a good story, and I think it might be the end of the story, as this clip shows here. So thank you to Dwarflord for capturing a lot of what I would have liked to about this story. I think he does a really good job. And again, I'll just encourage you to subscribe to Dwarflord. He's almost at 8K subs now. Really cool to see someone that is part of the era vanilla community get more and more traction on his videos when he's telling these kind of stories. So nothing but good vibes, and now we'll get to the rest of the video. It's wrapped up. Shout out to Dwarflord for clearing Naxx. They killed KT this past week, and I want to talk about what it took to get here, because there's this kind of narrative of, oh, Classic's easy, it's not hard to kill the bosses. And I agree with you. It's all about the prep and the lead up and that kind of stuff, and that's what makes it so interesting to me when a raid, I know this isn't like some hardcore sweaty guild kind of thing, but these are guys that are mostly the same people doing the same content week after week, and it's a struggle even in a group that is semi-competent, that has a raid leader that has a lot of experience and that kind of stuff. Naxx is just draining. It's tough. And in this first week of them doing the raid, they did a standard progression strategy where they cleared a bunch of the trash, and after clearing a bunch of the trash, they then continued on into Death Knight Wing, cleared a bunch of trash in Death Knight Wing, and now they're on to a noob. So basically an hour getting this raid set up. Most raid times are about 3 hours max in terms of the investment that a group is willing to put into in one sitting. So suddenly a third of the raid is done and they haven't killed any bosses yet. So they're hoping to go on a streak now of using their world buffs and blasting down bosses consistently. They have a little bit of struggles. Did they have a wipe on a Noobercon? I don't totally remember. Looks like it was a couple deaths, but they clear a noob. Great. They kill Ferlina. They kill Mexna. Kind of just skipping through because we have a lot of raids to talk about. They get through both Spider and Plague Wing cleanly. They have a solid Lothub. For day one, for a raid to be clearing Lothub, I think is impressive. These guys were on a really good start. Everything was looking really good in this first raid, and then it falls apart on Patrick. The wipe on Patrick is such a constant same case of what happens over and over here. So what happens is Clev fell out, or sorry, not Clev. Who's the other guy? It's hard for me to see here. But basically, Kev was the only tank in the top 4 for a second here, I believe. Let's see if I can make this better quality. We can see really. So yeah, Zels, I think is who it is. Yep, so Zet. That's who it is. So Zet's in the top 4 right here with Kev. And then Zet falls out of the top 4 for just a second here. They call how important the Ignite is, but the Ignite was not the issue. The Ignite was not a problem at all. Problem was that one of the guys fell out of the top 4 on threat. Only Kev is eligible for Hateful, so he's getting hit back to back, and he dies. So now, very dangerous situation. Dwarflord makes the call to use Lesser Heal, swap from Chain Heal to Lesser Heal just because they're running out of mana. And they almost get it down. So close, but not quite. Kind of one of those crazy cases of just how things could be different, how they could have killed extra bosses in this first week, and the momentum could have been totally shifted. But now, because they wiped to Patrick, very unfortunate. And Dwarflord just never used his LGG. The biggest things is just using cooldowns here so you can potentially live for a couple extra seconds. If this had gone on for another 10-15 seconds, if caster's able to just cast, might have been a different fight. So unfortunate, really pretty tragic how that first raid went. After the Patrick wipe, they finish up a Naxx Light, essentially, where they go on and kill Resuve, and that's a 3-hour day to do a Naxx Light. So kind of a tough first raid day. And then the stream title the next week, I'm not going to bed until KT is dead. Unfortunately, that was not the case. In week 2, they have continued struggles. I thought I remembered a noob wipe at some point, but I'm not seeing it. So they kill Spiderwing without too many struggles. But with that being said, without too many struggles, it is still an hour to get Spiderwing down. And that to me is just the interesting levels of Naxxramas, where some people are doing Spiderwing in 5 minutes, and some people are doing Spiderwing in an hour. And then you have groups like Grayson that can't even do Spiderwing, right? I'm trying to show those different levels of progression because just the amount of time differences to kill the same bosses to me is fascinating, where you don't really see that in other versions of the game besides like Mythic, where it's this insanely challenging thing that people can't do. This is supposed to be easy. So they get the kiss of the spider, I believe Dwarflord. Oh, he gets the kiss, right? No, it's the second one already. They got kissed the first week, I guess. Yeah. So pretty sick. So they kill Lothab this time. They're having a better rate of killing both Plague and Spider without too many issues, leading up to a Patrick that they do actually kill this time. So they had 2 people stay in the top 4 threat that were off tanks. Easy Patrick. They get down Thaddeus. So they've done all of A-Bomb Wing this time. That's a big level of progression. One thing to note in Dwarflord's raids is that he's also doing loot distribution. I think that's just a lot of brain power needed to be able to do both. I give him a lot of credit for being able to manage so much, but at the same time, it's a lot, right? As a raid leader, it's tough that you have to split your efforts focusing on the distribution of loot as well as trying to acquire loot by killing bosses. It's just a lot of effort. So they get down Gothic, they get to 4 Horsemen, and they are attempting to burn Thane here. They successfully burn Thane, but they have basically a wipe scenario as they're running out of Thane. Everyone gets hit by a 5th mark. They just don't have the damage needed to kill Thane. It's always hard for me to tell with Dwarflord's streams where they're at in terms of if they use buffs or not, because he covers it with his cam. So anyways, I just don't totally know the situation here. But they attempt another 4 Horsemen here. Do they have the damage to burn this time? I'm assuming they're using any remaining buffs. They get up to 4 stacks this time. So potential to kill it, but They make the call to roach out. Looks like tanks in the back died. So they just didn't have proper healer rotation going on. Multiple tanks are dying in the back, which signifies an end of a run. So another 3-hour raid day that did not resolve in KT going to the graveyard before he goes to bed. So we're now into the cleanup day. So they were an only 1 day a week raided group, but early on they put some extra time into trying to prog, and that's pretty standard for Naxx raid groups. You're spending this extra time, extra investments, and it's definitely frustrating when it doesn't pay off. Fortunately, they get 4 horsemen down this time. Looks like they did 1 dry run, maybe? No, just some practice in the wing here, knowing where to stand, using extra space, and then clearing 4 horsemen. Great. So they're going for 4 horsemen here. I forget if they do a dry run or not. No, they just go for it. I think this is smart. Lots of raid groups are going to do dry runs on Saffron, and it's really draining to do that. You either want to see if you can kill it or not with your world buffs. Again, Classic isn't super hard. There's some basic mechanics you have to learn. If you can't do those mechanics, if you don't have what's needed, then kind of just a waste of time to keep trying. So that was the second raid week. Third raid week, Saf and KT died tonight. We brought our snowsuits. So I don't see the new boy. I really thought there was. Maybe I'm thinking of another raid. Oh, here's a wipe, it looks like. What goes wrong? Oh, that's right. So they just had like a weird Fairlina. Things were just not getting mind controlled properly. It's really important that the tank is keeping Fairlina near the priests. That's my advice. Looks like some threat issues for a second there too, but at this point it's kind of over anyways. So, unfortunately, sometimes the easy stuff doesn't mean it's always easy. So, similar case here where they clear Spiderwing in almost an hour since the raid starts. They do manage to kill Lotheb. They clear A-Bomb Wing without a whole ton of issues. Hard for me to know exactly how many buffs they've lost, but assuming they rebuff, put their boons away before Death Knight Wing. Looks like Resuvius doesn't take too long, maybe 1 or 2. So this is interesting to me that they always already called it a dummy. Like Resuvius is 20% there. I would think with 1 or 2 more they could gut it out, but I guess they only have 1 priest left alive, so they got close, but no cigar there. So Resuvius struggles are a constant burden, especially on Horde side where you just have less priests. If 1 or 2 things go wrong, you're just out of options. Looks like Gothic gave him troubles here too. Again, this is a fight where it can normally be really easy, but it falls apart really fast. They just had creep of 1 or 2 deaths over time on live side happening more and more, and results in a wipe. So I don't know, looks like maybe they got consumes or something. He's in Stormwind for a second here. They get more stuff, they go back, and they can't get down 4 horsemen. It looks like. If you can't, no chance of killing KT if you can't get to it. So what goes wrong? They are burning Thane. They burn Thane successfully. Least amount of deaths in this first phase of 4 horsemen, so by far the best experience they've had so far. And they are attempting to burn Mograine. They have to do 2 rotations on it. They are not able to burn it. So, like, at this point, it looks so easy to me. This looks like a complete secure kill. And you're starting to relax, and then things fall apart really quickly. It looks like maybe a beam went out there. Lots of people all die at once, or maybe Ziliak got loose. I don't know exactly. Maybe, yeah, I think maybe 1 or 2 tank deaths. So, yeah, it just falls apart. This was so close, and as a raid leader, this is a really just unfortunate sinking feeling of like, man, are we ever going to be able to kill bosses? So in the end, I want to keep this as a positive story of perseverance and a raid group getting through the struggles. They're not giving up. I think we're now in week 4, is it? And on this week, things out of their control happened. Do they wipe on a noob? Is this the week where they wiped on a noob? Nope. Keep thinking it's happening and it's not. But this week doesn't really count. This is a mulligan. Blizzard screwed up the game and they had their best Spider Wing ever. As we showed before, typically it's about an hour for them to get through Spider Wing. This time it's 40 minutes. So everything's just kind of falling into place. They didn't kill all that trash beforehand, but they don't really need to kill as much trash beforehand because it's just starting to be more prog, right? The more you do it, the more consistent it gets. So they get down Patchwork, they get through the struggles, and until Four Horsemen, they've now, or Death Knight Wing, it's only been an hour and a half. So it's looking the best it has ever been. We're just skipping through some here. Resuvius, they don't have issues on that. Some groups did have issues on Resuvius while the patch was broken. Blizzard ruined a whole ton of different parts of the game, and you're going to see the blowback from that. I would be very frustrated if I was part of this raid group and it finally looks like you get over a bunch of the hurdles. Everything's finally coming together. And we talked about this in other videos, just reference my other videos if you're not sure what's going on here. But this isn't normal mechanics. The game was broken. Blizzard didn't say anything. They just let people play with a broken version of the game for a full day. I don't know when it's really ever been like this, that Blizzard has allowed something like this to happen, especially when there's the hardcore version of the game. I don't think full raids died from this because the hardcore raiders saw what the softcore raiders were dealing with and just chose not to play. Outside of one or two groups, there was one or two that just kind of manned it up and got through it, which I thought was really impressive with full wood buffs and stuff, I believe. But anyways, yeah, just really, really unfortunate to see that Blizzard allowed the game to be in this state. So the first time they tried to do it without buffs, and that's what we did. We were able to burn down Thane and burn down Mograine without buffs and clear it. But you can't really expect that in a group that doesn't have quite that power level, quite that level of coordination. So unfortunately, another week. So 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks now, I think. A month into raiding. It's just rough time. And then the question is, can we finally clear after the struggles? Can they bounce back? Can the momentum somehow flip around? And the answer is no. They have another week of struggles here. This time they switch it up. They are at Death Nightwing to start here, clearing a little bit of trash. So just a little bit of warm up at the start, getting some of the blood pumping as you're pressing your buttons here. They kill Spiderwing. So again, Spiderwing dies in about an hour, but they did clear some of that Death Knight trash so that it will cut down some time later. Looks like that they do Hygen. So after Hygen, they don't do Lotheb, question mark? Yes, they're doing a different strat. So they tried to play like the safest possible strategy here so that they could have as much buffs as possible for Four Horsemen and hopefully Saffron after that. Again, when you are a one night raid group, it's hard to have time to rebuff if your time limit is 3 hours outside of a couple struggles. You get faster and faster as you go, but early on, if you're not doing a whole ton of prep and stuff, there's just things that take time. You have to pass out loot. Loot has a 2-hour window. So I think that's what they're doing right here. It takes like 5 minutes for them to distribute loot. And when you're doing that, people step away. It just slows everything down, right? Things take time. So they're doing Four Horsemen here, looking like successful. They didn't have a single wipe on Four Horsemen this time. And that's the power of progression. That's the power of doing things over and over. So then they go do Lotheb. And I think this screwed them up, maybe. Yeah, so this ended up being a downfall.
Walk in. We're starting the fight. We're starting the fight, but don't log in yet.
Leave the thinking to those of us with brains.
I think that's that W buff master, the
Your frost gear better
thing
be
they just
on.
did.
All right, log in, melee. Log in, 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 log in. This boss is going to be aggroing now. Let me pick it up. Don't be inside the circle. Don't be in.
So this was like a 200 IQ strat that turned into less than 200 IQ strat. They tried to have everyone use Spore Buff for this, but they just came in so late, and being in combat for longer on a boss is often not worth it. So I would say Spore Buff did not pay off in this instance. Spore Buff disappears while you're logged offline, I'm pretty sure. So they just didn't get a whole ton out of it. They just lost more and more healers over time. Healers really were the name of the game of the struggle here. Saffron is a healer fight. And at this point, it's looking kind of good. They've had some deaths, but like 50%, but it's just not enough. These bosses can be true brick walls. So, yeah, kind of trying to be 200 IQ that turned into not 200 IQ with the way that they use that spore buff. I think that they potentially could have had a better time, but my recommendation always is you just take your time to get a shadow pot and a frost pot on. Make sure you get both those potions on, and don't overthink it. Don't try and do a whole ton of cheese with Saf. Just stay on one side, kill the boss, bring your frost gear, bring world buffs, and it's not going to be super challenging. So that's what they get this time. In the week that they finally were able to clear Naxx, big thing to note is Spiderwing took them 40 minutes. When they get through Spiderwing fast, the rest of the raid goes faster. It's a magical thing. So after Spiderwing, this time they go A-Bomb Wing. They pop their buffs at Patrick, I believe. That's kind of like a good, safe, standard strategy. So after they do A-Bomb Wing their buffs out, they keep their buffs out for Plague Wing, I'm pretty sure. They have a lot of practice at this point, so they feel pretty confident having buffs out for all of Plague Wing. Being able to do things like Nothenhagen without extra phases allows for a pretty clean raid. So they save their buffs before this. I think they distribute a little bit of loot, kind of a natural time to do that. They get Resuvius down, nice one shot on Resuvius. So they get to 4 horsemen within 2 hours of raiding. That's really key. Because of that, they're able to kill 4 horsemen. They did it one shot last time, did it one shot this time. That means they have time for Saffron. So they one shot Saffron. That's the big key, right? Kind of a scary opener here. And Dwarflord does a good job summarizing their actual week where they kill it. So recommend you watch his full video. I enjoyed it and encourage you to do the same. But yeah, they do some practice rounds on KT. KT definitely took some prog, and that's a grind. This raid ended up being over 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Last possible chance for them to kill this. He made it clear, guys, if we don't kill it here, we're going home. He goes to Stormwind, or Orgrimmar, sorry, and invests like all his gold into extra frost pots, extra flasks. They're going all out to get this kill. And they get it. I think it's really cool to see. I haven't watched since then, so we can just take a quick look and see how it's gone since. Because I think he raids, right? Live. Hard to catch up, so let's see what happens here. They have DMF out, that's right. So 3.5 hour raid. It looks a little bit scary. Gets through Spiderwing again in about an hour. 40 minutes, I should say. So between all of Plague, they get that done within an hour. That's really key. Moving on to Patrick here. They get through A-Bomb Wing, it looks like, unharmed. A couple deaths, maybe one or two, but not the end of the world. Distribute a little bit of loot. So they're getting in that same cycle of doing the same things over and over, and it's working for them. So same idea here where they're able to get to Gothic and 4 Horsemen within 2 hours, hopefully. Or not. Maybe a wipe. No, they got through it. Just a fair amount of deaths. Gothic wasn't super easy for them, but they survive. So we're getting a little bit of buffering here. That's okay. A little bit of downtime as they set up, I believe. Not really sure what's going on here. Maybe they're distributing loot. 15 minutes here of chilling. Maybe they're getting world buffs. I don't know. This 30 minutes? Have to look into the context of that, but that was a long time. So Prague, are they going to be able to one-shot KT? Let's see it. It's looking good. They do. So it's really cool to see they got over their little hurdle of the dry streak, and suddenly bosses are dying again. So props to these guys for the Prague, and hope to see more and more clears. Just kind of wanted to talk about that process. So anyways, GG's, and until the next one.